Welcome to another Michigan Girls Hoops podcast presented by Prepare to Win Basketball. Today, we're going to say co-presented by LBI as we have some special ranking episode going on today. I am your host today, Coach Terrence Willis. I'm assistant coach at Spring Arbor Women's Basketball and Michigan Drive Premier Girls Basketball. This is my co-host, Evan Bell.
Hey guys, friends of the pod, good to have you back for another great edition of our podcast. I'm Evan Bell. I'm your co-host, director of Prepare to Win Basketball, lead scout, Prep Girls Hoops Michigan, assistant coach, Lake Michigan College, and avid basketball fan here in Michigan.
We're extremely excited to bring you the first podcast of its kind. We will not be talking about boys basketball here. There's a ton of platforms out there that can talk to you about those things. And there's a variety of subjects that we'll attempt to cover, but we won't try to cover them all at one time. If you happen to have a subject or a thought or question that you might like for us to talk about or address, we have a small segment in every podcast called Friends of the Pod, where we'll attempt to answer some of your thoughts, your questions. Again, you can email those things to us at mghpodcasting@gmail.com, and that link will be listed for you below. And you'll be able to have some conversation with us directly by reaching out there. Evan, how you feeling today, man?
Doing great. I've got my camouflage hat on because I'm going into the jungle of vulnerability. I'm like a buck sprinting through the forest. And whenever you make rankings, we've got our 2028 Prep Girls Hoops rankings coming out tomorrow. I'm super excited about that. And then we've got the top 10 list that we've put together. Super fun entertainment for everybody. And you've got to be willing to be wrong sometimes, willing to put yourself out there, plant your flagpole in the ground. So, I'm excited for this, and, we're confident, guys, and we're willing to, take some critical feedback, but a lot of fun, and we're excited to have this discussion with everybody for sure.
Yeah, this podcast is going to be one that it should be really entertaining and fun just because of the conversations we're going to have. Anytime you're talking about rankings, whether you're talking about teams or players, there's going to be a lot of people's feelings involved and or hurt as a result of it. Again, don't take it too personal or too serious. This is really us just having conversation. We would have these conversations if we weren't on the podcast. Now we're just going to have them right here in front of you. So we're looking forward to this conversation. If your team's missed or your player or kid isn't talked about, doesn't mean we don't think they're a good player or kid. They just didn't get covered this podcast. Kids and players all year long. So it's going to be exciting. I'm ready to get into it. In light of the rankings coming up, man, that showcase was great, especially for the 28s. We don't have to get in the rankings for all the other classes right now as far as the players are concerned. But are you going to give us a sneak peek about where you have some of these kids ranked, who your top 10 or 20 kids or might be in the conversation? You don't have to.
Well, so our consensus number one, she was actually busy getting an offer from Kent State. She was registered, but we'll give her a pass because she was busy getting an offer from another D1 mid-major. But so Kenna Hunt is our consensus number one overall best prospect in the state. She's just a miraculous talent. Really, really great kid to talk to. I saw her for the first time in person. I'd heard about her, a lot of good things, but I saw her for the first time actually at the Spring Arbor shootout this July, and she was just like her physical athleticism and profile and just how fast she is and how she just scores well, driving to the hoop off the bounce. She can, pull up mid-range jumper effectively. She has great range on her threes. She sees the court really well as a pass distributor. She'll draw multiple defenders and still keep her eyes up and pass the ball to teammates, which is something girls at the showcase did that impresses as well. But she's just an overall great player, good defender as well, does a lot and just creates an advantage for her team on the court. So she's somebody, and she has, like I said, she has multiple mid-majors, Bowling Green State, Kent State, Akron, and she's the only kid in this class, to my knowledge, that already has Division I offers before she's even stepped on a court this winter with a high school program. So she's doing a great job, and she's the person that we think is deserving of the number one ranking.
Well, congratulations, man. Congratulations to Kenna for one. I know Kenna for a long time, very, very familiar with the family, familiar with her. But it's exciting to hear, man. I watched her for a long time, and I think the kid is special. Like you said, she does all those things that you mentioned, and then she does some things that just make the game a lot easier for those playing with her, which which is special talent. We've always called that the Magic Johnson effect. Sometimes a kid gets on the floor and their team's just better because they're on the floor with them. So it's exciting to see her getting the opportunities that she's getting. We know how hard that she works, and all these kids, man. Who are some other players that jumped off for you that we probably can expect to see in the top 10? I mean, I knew the 28 class was good. I didn't know it was that good.
Yeah, there's actually a girl that was kind of a surprise, which doesn't happen often, because I try to get to as many gyms as possible and see these kids nonstop. But the girl that I chose actually as my most valuable prospect at the freshman showcase was Lucy Young. So she was one that we felt definitely deserves to be top five. And really, like, she just showed up at the showcase and she just, I hadn't really seen her play a lot during the travel season, but she walks in, she's 6'2". At some point, I was talking to her after she just dominated in division or the 3v3 segment. And I just was like, wow, you're tall. Then she kind of went out in the 5v5 and confirmed that just by she has the height, she has the post moves, the drop steps, she finishes well off too. She was a great shot blocker, good defender. As far as being aware of where everybody is, she was basically a rebounding machine. I had in my notes just offensive rebound after offensive rebound. She just, to me, she kind of separated herself as the best forward prospect in this class, just with how not only how dominant she was, but the fundamental soundness of her game already, and the physical soundness of how she plays already at this young age.
I would have to agree with you as far as her being at the top, or at least in the conversation of the top bigs or post or whatever in the class. And there were some good posts there, including some of the girls that I've coached. But the Lucy Young at the showcase, man, she jumped off the page. When we watched her, she moved well with the ball. Obviously, was aggressive. Sometimes posts don't really get an opportunity to show what they can do in a showcase that's full of guards. But she found literally a way to
Mhm.
stand out every time. She was impressive in the 3-on-3, probably even more impressive in the 5-on-5, because she knew how to get to her spot. She passes the ball extremely well, defends with confidence and without fouling. I thought that was impressive. She's a good big. Another big that wasn't there that I'm curious to see where she ends up in your ranking. I think she's going to be at Saginaw Heritage,
Yeah,
Zaria.
McCrary. Yep.
Yeah, she's in that same conversation. Post who can put the ball on the floor, but also shoot. Can get to multiple spots on the floor. Knows how to use her length and athleticism. And those are two players that offer a lot of upside away from the guard position. That showcase was packed, man. So you don't have to shout everybody out, but you got to tell me, man, who's in that conversation of when you walk in the gym this year and you see that freshman. What guard do you have to be aware of coming into the gym?
Yeah, so there's two guards I'll focus on that attended the freshman showcase. There's others that didn't that are going to be special as well, but Paisley Stevens from Belleville, and it's cool because they have different styles of play and just different kind of athleticism and kind of how they succeed on the court. But Paisley Stevens and Emerson Holder were two girls
Yeah,
that I
yeah, yeah.
chose I chose to my all showcase team that just they both were very successful in different ways. So Paisley, she was just a defensive menace. Like I loved her work ethic and her hustle, like chasing down guards and transition to knock the ball away, finishing strong inside off 2 feet through fouls. Like she was living at the free throw line. Like the other team, it didn't matter how many girls they threw at her. Like she was getting downhill. She was either going to score or she was going to pass to a wide open teammate for an assist or what should have been an assist or she was going to, get to the free throw line. So she did that nonstop, played great defense, one of the best, driver and dishers. And then Emerson Holder, she's just like, I mean, she's been great just all spring and summer at elite camps, on the travel circuit with that Michigan or Mystic Select team. And she's just like, she's a three-level scorer. Like she has some of the best balance and range and efficiency on her three-point shots. She's very quick with a burst, quick first step. She gets downhill. She's able to finish as well in traffic. Good, makes good decisions with the basketball, good passer, and then she plays really sound defense as well. But those two, in my mind, like throughout the travel season and especially at the freshman showcase, really separate themselves.
I agree. Two different type of players. I think that, and again, not from rankings. I'm not. So if you hear me talking, I'm not talking from a ranking perspective. Two different players, right? Emerson Holder, man, she had the ball on the string the whole day. Like the girl can flat out dribble the rock. I thought she was tough. She was patient. She's one of the best shooters in the class. And probably one of the best shooters in two classes. Like the girl can knock down shots. She's one of the few players. She reminds me a little bit of the Rodriguez sisters, not necessarily one or the other, because she's a small guard, but she can light you up if you are not ready to play basketball in a multitude of ways. So it's fun to watch her as she got after it. And then Paisley Stevens, man, there's nothing, I can't find anything negative to say about her as a basketball player. She walks in the gym a competitor. She's going to play one of the best, what I think is going to be one of the best teams in the state this year in Belleville. In a room full of dogs, she never comes out as the little dog, and that's just tough to deal with. And as you said, I mean, she lived at the free throw line. She sees the floor extremely well. Actually, coach against her for a while, and I knew she seen the floor well. I didn't know she saw it as well as she did until I watched her at the showcase when it wasn't in her system. She
Mhm.
made some passes that some girls flat out dropped.
Yeah.
She made some passes girls weren't ready for, that at the next level, at the varsity teams and in college above that, she makes those passes there. Those are guaranteed knockdown
Dunks.
automatic shots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically dunks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
the kid has skill, and like you said, she can get after on both sides of the ball. That was fun to watch. Both of those players play, man, and their teams did pretty well with them on the floor. Is a different ball game, not just in the 5-on-5, but the 3-on-3. Really good at finding and exploiting matchups. So two young players I think that are going to be really fun to watch, really interesting to watch how they do in their high school systems, because they do have some really good teams that they're going to, coming in as highly ranked freshmen
Yeah,
before we go.
so I know, so our rankings are coming out and I always release a, how we rank article before the rankings come out just to kind of explain like this is what the rankings is, and this is, how we develop the rankings, what it's meant to show you, what it's not meant to show you. But just kind of a reminder for everybody, viewing this is, you know, so the ranking criteria, like we're looking at your athleticism, height, size, strength, speed, agility. We're looking at, your position, your ability to play your position effectively, guard your position effectively. We're looking at your fundamental skills, passing, shooting, ball handling, rebounding. So all those things, and then we're trying to project kind of where you are at as a college level prospect right now. So it's not, how amazing you did, you know, playing travel against, whatever team it was or whoever you were matched up against or your high school team or your high school season, or if you started like we talked about with Coach Sahar, like, whether you start on varsity or play on varsity as a freshman doesn't matter. That doesn't come into our rankings. So based on our evaluations of you in person, all of the criteria I just mentioned that has nothing to do with winning games, that is what we're using. And we're trying to project you like where we want to have a really accurate bell curve. So by the time you get to your senior year, if everything goes as planned, I would love to look at this list and see the top is Division 1, then we have Division 2, then we have, D3, and then JUCO is a little different because you could go any you could be good enough to be Division 1, you could be good enough to be D2, D3, wherever, based on a lot of factors like finances, grades, etc. So, but in my mind, like if college coaches are looking at our rankings and they are seeing a similar projection and evaluation as we are, and there isn't a bunch of scrambling that we have to do, like where we have a girl, ranked where we see her as like a Division 2 level talent right now, and she's really, she's not seen that way and doesn't have the offers to back it up. or the interest from college coaches to back it up, then, that's not what you want. So that's kind of what goes into our rankings and kind of what our end game is for them.
And again, for all you players, you parents, coaches, directors, whoever out there, our podcast is just designed to be as informative as possible, continue to bring attention to the game. And I'm saying this, as one college coach. Not all college coaches necessarily agree, but I would say a great majority will agree when I tell you the rankings are good, they're fun, but they don't guarantee you just because you were ranked in the top 40 or top 200 or whatever of what someone's ranking that tells you that you're going to get this offer because this ranking had you here, whether it's PGH or any of the other rankings out there. All they do is just give us an opportunity sometimes as a staff to know who you are, and then we can watch for you for ourselves to determine whether or not, A, you're gifted enough, talented enough for us to watch and try to recruit. But then secondly, and this is a big thing, whether you fit the program that's trying to recruit you. And there's a multitude of reasons why you might or might not fit or might not get an offer from different colleges. The rankings are a lot of fun. You should enjoy them. They should be motivating tools for you to get better at your basketball game, not, use that as a reason why you think you should be getting an offer from somebody. I don't care if you stay number 1 or number 35 for 4 years. If you don't get better as a basketball player, your ranking doesn't matter when you get to college. What matters is what you find a way to go in the gym and get better all the time. We love the rankings. They're fun. They're exciting. Something for us to talk about. And we don't even always see eye to eye on players, but we want you to make sure you understand that no matter where you're ranked at, if you don't get better, we'll go find somebody who did. Okay. A lot of us are coaching for our jobs. That's just how we make a living, how we feed our families. I can't just be picking you up just because Evan said you're the best player in the class, right? I got to make sure when I go recruit someone that fits our program and that got better each year. So don't get comfortable. Don't get relaxed. And if you don't find yourself in the top of someone's ranking, then use it as motivation to get yourself better as a basketball player. As we say that, we are about to transition to a fun conversation for probably most of the rest of our podcast. Preseason high school team rankings in Michigan. This is our evaluation of what we think some of the best high school teams are to watch. This will be fun for college coaches to go and check teams out. This will be fun for parents and kids to kind of look at, what we might think of your team. On this particular podcast, we might not know all of the teams or all the players. And if we don't know them, then we have an email. You can reach out to us and we'll try to watch those teams a little bit more. But this is based on kids we've seen play AAU. We're going to see them on their school teams. We see them at skill case camps. I have not told Evan who my top teams are. He hasn't broke down to me who his top teams are, even though I got a little bit of a sneak peek with his PGH list that dropped. We also have a special ranking that we're going to start with. Okay, so I've had the privilege of having a great relationship with both Wilkins from LBI and Coach Wade and their staff overall. So we got Wade's Super 10. We're going to do a list where Bell's going to do his Big Ten, and we're going to do T's Big Ten. And then we're going to look at that list, and then we'll let you all talk about it online when we're done there. But right now, let's get into it. I was fortunate enough to get Wade's list from him. He's not able to join us today, but one of these days we'll get him on the pod, and he'll be able to talk to you all live and debate a little bit with me and Evan about what he sees in some of these teams versus what we see. So let me get Wade's list pulled up here right now, and we can get to it, okay? The Super 10, all of us have our views and opinions based on the roster, based on NPR, based on the conference you're in, based on how far we think you'll go when you get to the state tournament. These are teams that Wade approved. Okay, so if your team's on this list, that means Coach Wade has seen your team. He's seen players on the team. He's evaluated. This is where he kind of sees the state lining up preseason right now. We all have the right to reserve and change our opinions later, but right now, let's see what Wade has. You ready for this list? Evan hasn't seen this list
Let's do
yet.
it. I'm excited.
All
I've been kind of on edge waiting for this. I've been eager to hear what he says. So
I've been dragging it out for a couple weeks, so I'm ready now.
Let's go.
All right. Okay, so Super 10, okay, from Coach Wade, number 1 team currently ranked in the state. Belleville Tigers, number one on Coach Wade's list. We have Wayne at number 2, Wayne Memorial at number 2. Father Gabriel Richard comes in at number 3. We have Rockford as number 14. Right behind Rockford, Tecumseh shows up here at number 5. At number 6, we have DEPSA. And then we got Detroit Country Day at number 7. At number 8, Muskegon. And then number 9, Grand Blanc. Grand Blanc, I always say this wrong. And then number 10, we have Frankenmuth. Those are Wade's top 10. We'll get those on a list for you to see them here shortly. But Wade's top 10, Belleville, Wayne, FGR 1, 2, and 3. Rockford at number 4, Tecumseh at 5, DEPSA at 6, Country Day at 7, Muskegon at 8, Grand Blanc at 9, and Frankenmuth at 10. He does have a just missed. But before we get to his just miss, Ev, how's that look? How's that list look compared to what yours might look like? How close are y'all?
I mean, there's a few in there that, I mean, most of the teams in there are in my top 10, but I mean, there's been some the high school transfer portal has been alive and well, and there's some important names, on a team in there that are no longer
the high school transfer portal is hilarious.
I don't have. I think there's 2, and then one of the teams lost to Division I talent that's actually playing at Eastern Michigan that I'm super excited to watch this winter at the college level. So 2 teams in there I don't have, but it's funny, like that's part of this is like you can throw stones all you want and think you're smarter than thou, but like at the end of the day, like I'm gonna be wrong, other people are gonna be wrong. Like it's just the fun of the conversation. And sometimes teams just they play better on that day than somebody else. And so I'm not gonna sit here and think I'm smarter than everyone else or anything, but I do have some different some picks to
I'll get to yours in a second. We're gonna do his
table.
just missed. I know you're ready to get there because we're gonna do yours and we'll do mine probably last. Teams that just missed. So these are teams that you gotta watch out for. We'll call them bracket busters as our term on this show. But Wade has 3 teams that you absolutely need to watch out for, right? So these teams could find their way above those top 10 teams. Howell, which is a really, really good team. Their roster is really good, and they beat some good teams in the past, and they return a lot of players. Renaissance, which I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they end up doing with the roster that they have. Then we have West Catholic as a team that just missed Wade's Super 10. So those 3 teams in particular are teams to watch out for. And if Wade has them down, any of those teams, and not knocking anybody's list. I'm not going to knock Ev's, Wade's. Hopefully they don't knock mine. But again, it's part of the game. Have a conversation, right? Those teams are teams to watch out for. So just because you made the top 10 or you didn't make the next 3 doesn't mean that you're not a good team. But these are teams that Coach Wade has said, hey, these are some teams you got to watch out for in the state of Michigan. These teams have some players. They're coached well, and they're going to be playing against some talent. So it should be fun to watch and see how they end up. Okay, the next part of the pod, Bell's Big Ten. We've named it. Who is Bell's Big Ten, regardless of class? Who are the Big Ten teams to watch out for?
Yeah, Coach. So I dropped a list in June. I've scrambled that order since. So just it twice, man. Yeah, just the whole point is just we're having fun with this. And then I dropped a list August 31st of the top 10 teams in D1, D2, and then 5 from D3. So you guys can reference that if you'd like on Twitter. But so these are my Big Ten, the top 10 teams I have in the state. And yeah, so I mean, number 1 is a team that, I just see them as having more talent, just more prospects overall, especially at the guard position. I just see them having such an advantage just athletically and just how skilled they are at the guard position, especially overall. So my number 1 team is Belleville. They went to the Breslin last year. They were a Final Four team. And then they've gotten better. I mean, they were already phenomenal last year. They graduated some seniors playing college ball this year, but so I mean, they're key players. So I'll share my key players for each team. So they have the number one 2027 prospect in the state of Michigan, Sydney Savory. I mean, she's got more offers than anybody I
Well,
know
in a
of in
little
the
bit, huh?
state. So she's phenomenal. And then they have, I mean, point guards, combo guards. They've got Ryland Bushel, Secret Carter. So Ryland has an offer from Central Michigan. Secret Carter, she just committed to Marquette. She's just a lights out shooter, killer from three. Saw her do it this summer. Jaden Quinn, she's a kind of a younger player that has a lot of talent that I
Slept
saw
on,
with Michigan
slept
Anarchy.
on
Oh,
player.
no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paisley Stevens, who we already mentioned. Christine Shinemalu, she actually played at the Michigan uh, team
Mhm.
camp with Paisley, and just those two were just incredible out there. Christine's just super athletic, strong downhill driver, and she got a lot of run that day because I don't know, just based on who was playing for Belleville at the tournament, but she's just a phenomenal prospect too. That probably, I mean, she would start no doubt on some
Mhm.
great teams. So, anyways, and then they've got Ayanna Stevens in the post, who was one of the LBI summer leagues that I went to. She was just incredible force in the paint on both ends. So she kind of shores up the middle for them. So just all those players combined, and then they actually just added the top shooting guard, according to us at Prep Girl Soups, and then they also just added the top point guard in the 2027 class from Orchard Lake St. Mary's, Layla Stewart.
Yep.
So I mean, she had a Central Michigan offer her before her freshman season as well, as far as I understand. So
Yep.
just a lights out shooter, scorer, passer. I mean, good Lord. I don't know how you match up with all that on the court at once. So that's why they're my number one team.
So I love bet that Belleville is everyone's top 10. And you know what? On paper, I, I would turn to Stephen A today, man. Coach T is doing Coach T's top 10 list. All right. You might not love this, but it's fun. It's exciting for me. I get to have these conversations. Um, there's no doubt in my mind when you look at the paper that Belleville has the most talented roster in the state of Michigan. Uh, if they end up winning it all more than once over the next couple of years, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. Jay Wilkins, that's my guy. Charvet's on the coaching staff, does a great job with player development and developing guards. And they got a ton of athleticism. They can pick you up full court. They don't have to play zone ever. They never need to. And they can cause havoc on both ends of the ball. They can go inside, they can go outside. They do all of those things really, really well. But when I'm doing my top Coach T's top 10, I'm going to take into consideration the most underrated, underappreciated, undervalued to me basketball coach in the state of Michigan. That's Coach Monique at DEPSA. My number one team in the state of Michigan this year um, comes right out of Detroit, Detroit Edison. I know one thing about Edison, and that's when it comes to the playoffs, Monique finds a way to win. I would even say they might have ripped off four or maybe 4 or 5 in a row, if not for 2020. So we had them at 23-3 last year,
Mhm.
upset Father Gabriel Richard in the state championship game, who hadn't lost a game until they ran into DEPSA, and then DEPSA gave them problems all game long. And my number one reason, and this is not a knock on any player, the kid that I call the problem, Isis Johnson. Kid is the problem. She is an issue on the basketball court. I mean, she scores at will when she wills. And she's always been like that. There's never been a time where she didn't step in the gym where she wasn't a bucket when she decided, you know what, I'm putting the ball in the basket. The kid can flat out score the ball. Doesn't take away from all the other great teams out there, some of the other teams. But again, right now, to me, in the state of Michigan, if I walk in the gym today and I had to pick a team who I can guarantee to win one, I'm walking out with Depson.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great choice. I mean, just coaching alone, the coaching experience there, what they were able to do in the playoffs, beating some, I saw them, I saw them at the Breslin against Gabriel Richard. I saw them. I mean, Goodrich got off to a fast start in their game at West
Mhm.
Bloomfield, and then Edison just turned on the gas and just kind of ended up almost running away with it a little bit. So, they're definitely a very well coached team and a very talented team, and you can easily make an argument for them, to beat anybody for sure.
Nice. That's my number one. It won't be the consensus. I'll be the only one probably won't have Belleville as number one in the state. But Wilkins knows that's my guy. You know, Jay. You know, I got my team, man. I'm running with Depsa this year. We'll see what happens.
All right, we got a trailblazer here. All right, coach. So do you want to propose your number two
Well,
team or do you want me?
that being said, my number two team is Belleville. I'm
Okay.
crazy, but I'm not.
There you go. Okay.
I might be crazy enough to not have him at number one, but to me, if things go the way they're supposed to, even without Sydney, man, I can make an argument. They got 5 or 6 Division I players on that basketball team in high school.
Mhm.
There's a lot of us right now that if that team they wanted to come play at our level, we wouldn't have any problem taking anybody on that team right now today, and a lot of them are underclassmen. So I'm crazy, but I'm not foolish. I will have Belleville setting number two for me. I won't go on a
Yep,
long soliloquy. Um, I expect Belleville to be an issue for a very long time.
for sure. Yeah, so my number two team then is let me double check here. Yep. So the Rockford Rams. Um, they are a team that they've won a state championship in the last 3 years. I mean, you might as well just build them a house, a dorm at the Breslin because they attend there every year.
Mhm.
They're a consistent winner, really well coached. They'll throw multiple defenses at you. I mean, this kind of goes into winter basketball, what you do in the playoffs, what you do in your conference during the winter season is what matters. You're in the grind of a long season. You have time to scout, you have time to prepare for other teams. So when we're picking our teams and our rankings, I know myself and I'm sure you as well, but correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm looking at coaching, I'm looking at, if you have multiple days to scout, based on, you have time to practice, install plays, install multiple defenses, you have timeouts in a game, all those different things, are you used to playing? You mentioned some of these matchups that we're going to see this season where, when you're looking at NPR and different things like, are you playing a challenging non-conference schedule if your conference and your league isn't as competitive as you like? And the teams that are most of these teams I'm sure that are in our top 10 are definitely teams that are scheduling that strong strength of schedule to build themselves into peak form for the time the playoffs roll around.
I agree. The whole goal is to not be, undefeated or just win the conference. Those are steps to the goal. I can tell you as a back-to-back state champion in high school at Lumen Christi, the goal for that program is football. Was never to be undefeated. The goal was to win a state title, right? And so I'm looking at those teams with a big umbrella in mind, but not taking away from the success that you can have as you try to achieve that goal. But yes, the goal um, as a coach is to be playing your best basketball at the end of the season. If you're playing your best basketball at the beginning or the middle of the season, then you're going to find yourself heartbroken at the end of the year.
Yeah, so with that in mind, so at Addison Whitepick is the
Mhm.
younger sibling now coming up as a 2028. She's one of the best guards in this class. You have
Mhm.
Anna, there who's just a gamer, a flat out scorer, great overall player. She's done on the travel circuit. She's done it multiple years at the high school level. She's committed to Butler, very talented kid. You've got Jordan Mateer, who's a great rotational guard player. Kate Higgins is kind of an underrated power forward in the 26 class that's just a dominant rebounder. She can face up and attack to the basket. She had a big semifinal performance at the Breslin last year and just made a great impact for Rockford. You got Kendall Byers, which is another 2028 coming up. So I mean, I mean, arguably one of their best players, on the team. Uh, Sienna Wolf. She was on a tear last season, and uh, she was the 2026 Prep Girls Hoops Player of the Year, actually. But she's just a phenomenal player. She's just a fantastic shooter. She's 6 feet tall. She's lengthy. She can, score in the post. She's a great passer, defender, but she's somebody they're expecting to get back as well. She wasn't even on the team in the Final Four last year, and they almost pulled out a win against West Bloomfield. So you throw her in the mix, I really think they have the potential to beat anybody.
I agree. I think that team is as talented as a team that you can run into in the state of Michigan, and they have experience. I know that they'll be hungry to get back to the state title game, so it'll be exciting to watch Rockford as they, try to make a third straight trip to the Breslin Center in an attempt to bring out a title this year. I actually, for my third team, am not gonna go with Rockford.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go with Wayne. And honestly, it's for two simple reasons. I won't take long. Lily Bryant is a problem. Kalina Lily Bryant is an absolute issue. And this is not just something she did all summer long, but really for her all 4 years that she's been there, she's constantly gotten better and better and better as a basketball player. I like to propose an argument that she might be the best point guard in the 2025 class. And there's some really good point guards in that class. I don't know of anybody that is as talented as Lily Bryant with the ball in her hands, but also her vocal leadership. She makes the team better, and it's not just something she does on her high school team, AAU team as well, and she's going to do it again in college. Her ability to um, LeBron the game. And I'm not saying she is LeBron, but LeBron controls the pace and the tempo. You don't get Lee to play at a tempo that she don't want to play at. She takes other matchups with other guards very, very personal. And I won't get into the names of some of the guards she gave fits this summer, but she takes those matchups serious. And then I think that Jarvis Mitchell is underrated as a coach. I think that the job that he's done with getting his girls to play at a high level, not just in high school, but when they go to college, they're going to have successful careers. I think that should not be underlooked when it comes to winning time. When coaching is just like any other profession. The more experience you have, the better you should be. And I think that his experience is gonna prove a problem for a lot of teams in Division One this year. Even though they may have lost some pieces that were some good pieces from last year, they got all the right pieces. I think coming back this year. I have Wayne as my number three team.
Yeah. And they're a great team. They're triplets of guards. I'll talk a little bit more about when I get to them in my rankings, but you've got guards that can just do a number of things, and then you got Gabby Gerald in the post, who's a solid post player as well. So definitely a very talented team. Um, Speaking of a hunger for vengeance, a team in the state that might have be on an absolute war path and just feeling like they wanted the state championship last year and they're desperately seeking to get back there and avenge their loss is the team that lost to your number one ranked squad in DEPSA, Ann Arbor, Father Gabriel Richard, and they are my number three team. So Gabriel Richard, um, we've they're just a phenomenal group that plays well together. They're a fun group to watch play the game because it's not iso ball. It's not, selfish shooting, every time you touch the ball, it's passing up shots, to give somebody an extra pass for a more open shot. Like they move the ball like a pinball. And it's fun to watch. Like their guards push the ball in transition quickly. They fired up the court. They've got two bangers in the post that just, can play bully ball down there and then clean up with rebounds and misses. And they're a team that just, they went on that tear, like you said, where they were undefeated, and they were neck and neck with Depsa, in that championship game. So anyway, so you got the Rodriguez twins, who are lightning in a bottle, great efficient shooters, great passers, super quick. You got Charlotte Miller, who's a great shooter as well, committed to Ferris State. You have Sage Edmondson, who is, a great post player, committed
Mhm.
to Lake State. And then you have Cora Williams, who's a phenomenal track athlete, but also just a really strong presence down low. So really their combination of, the two posts in the paint that just are great rebounders, just really effective around the basket defensively and finishing in the paint. And then you've got those three guards that can just shoot lights out, solid passers, beat people off the dribble. And then just a group that's very confident in how they play together, on both sides of the ball, and very cohesive. So really, I was tempted to have them higher, in my ranking actually, but they're a group that I just see dominating again. And I mean, really, they're the top team I see, going into the Division II calendar season. So, just a team I've been very impressed with, this summer for sure.
I like it. At all. I think it's a good look. Interesting look, but it's a good look. I'm gonna go with Rockford as my number 4 team. I think that Rockford is a team that is hungry to prove that they're not a one and done type team program. They have a lot of pieces. They got a lot of experience. I think health is something to watch out for. Sienna's coming back. But again, it's hard to win. It's even harder to win when there's a target on your back every night. You're going to get, every team's best playing. But I do have Rockford sitting at number 4 for me. So who you got number 4?
All right, so I've got your number one coming up right here, Depsa.
Hmm.
And I ditto, I repeat what you say, about Isis. She's just a phenomenal player. And they have some some younger players coming up too. I mean, they have a lot of depth. Like, I'm a little nervous having them here because I feel like, they could easily just make a repeat, trip through the postseason and bring home another trophy. They have Isis, they have Priya Johnson, who's a great kind of wing, small forward, strong player. They have Nicole James, who's the top power forward that we have in the 27 class. And her with Kamaria Lowe down there are just like super tough to match up with their height, and they're just super explosive. Mariana Jones as well. So they have the height, and then they have the athleticism and the speed. And then Mariah Goody's another just really explosive downhill type of guard and scorer. So I mean, they're really, to have any chance of beating them, you have to be willing to match up with them physically. You have to be disciplined on defense, and honestly, you just have to be a lights out shooting team. And doing all of those things and not give them transition baskets is very challenging to do. Um, but yeah, so I have them as my number 4 team, and they could easily, beat anybody ranked ahead of them for sure.
I like it. I think that they're always a problem. They're ready to play when the season comes around. They have a lot of basketball players and a great coaching staff. So I like the pick. We both have them higher than what Wade had them. So I'm curious to see what his thoughts are when that comes around. Um, but at number 5, I'm going to go with FGR. Very familiar with that team. Had the privilege of coaching Charlotte Miller, who I think is the smartest basketball player that I've ever coached, not named Shea Tripp. Shout out to Shea and Wayne State. But we had an opportunity to coach Charlotte, and just her IQ on the court is very underrated. And then also keeping in mind they do have the returning player of the year. On their team. So to me, it would be an injustice if I didn't have them in my top 5. I do think that they got something to prove because they had a good year last year, but Depsa did beat them, and I think that Division 1 is just is filled with talent. That's why they have them. I have them at 5 to start the year off, which I don't think is a slight. I know Tim very well, though he might take offense to that. No, it's no love lost, Tim, but I do have, I have you all at number 5. And if you all would have won the title, then we would have probably had a different conversation coming into this year. But I think that it'll fuel your hunger a little bit. So again, no love lost, T. But I do have FGR at 5. Who you got, E?
Yeah, so 5. I think you had Wayne Memorial at 3. Is that correct?
3.
3,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, so we kind of we talked about them a little bit in length already, but like you said, Kalina Bryant, who is she's the number one point guard that we have ranked in the 25 class, and then they have Mariah Cross, phenomenal guard as well, Morgan Smith. All three of those girls can turn over guards that they go up against. If if you're not strong with the ball, they will eat you alive out
Thank you for
there. Yep,
Yep.
and it'll be a double digit lead in no time with just transition bucket after transition bucket. They'll get hot from beyond the arc and knock down threes. And then you got Gabby Gerald there in the paint, just finishing and being a solid rebounding presence for them. So they're definitely a tough talented team, and very dangerous team. And there's somebody that could easily make a long run as well. And and we have these teams ranked, and it's really hard, to do, but on any given day, a lot of these teams could, beat or make it extremely close with anybody else. So they're another team to watch out for sure.
So a lot of people have some teams ranked higher than I have them. And for me, it's long game. I think there are some really hungry teams in both the Division 1, Division 2, and even Division 3. It has a couple teams in there that I'm gonna have to watch. If I'm being honest, most of the teams I'm gonna have ranked are gonna be Division 1, Division 2. But my sixth best team I have is Muskegon. Um, Mariah Sane,
Mhm.
CC Bonner are the two main reasons, but they've got some players in Martin and Laudermire and Bell and these players who can put it together. But I like dogs. I love to watch dogs. I love to recruit dogs and shooters and size. But emotionally, I love kids with high motors. And I don't know if you're gonna find two players with a higher consistent motor, not just on the big game. I'm talking about when you playing teams that you can beat by 30, two players that don't take a night off. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I was tempted to move them into the top 5. There's a team or two I was thinking about moving down out of the top 5 just because when these two girls walk in the gym, that's Sane and Bonner. As a coach,
Mhm.
I'm getting whatever the gas money I put in my car to get there. I'm getting my money's worth when I walk in the gym. Those kids don't take nights off. They don't care if the team is 0-20 or 20-0. They come ready to play. So for me, um, that little edge right there makes Muskegon a team that you got to watch. And I have them at number 6.
Yeah, we'll talk more about them when I get there in a couple picks. So, um, anyways, but so number 6 for me is a team that they were the spoilers. They were the bracket busters last postseason. I actually went to see them play in the regionals. They took on Lansing Catholic and they knocked off the defending champs. And then they took FGR to the limits. They just, they just play really well together. They have everyone kind of knows their role and what they do well, and they play. A lot of those girls come from the same drive travel program, so they've been playing a lot of ball. But anyway, so to come see, they've got Ali Zajac, who's, just a lights
Mm-hmm.
out 3-point shooter, deep
Mm-hmm.
range. They've got, Michaela Schlorf, who's just a phenomenal two-way point guard. She sees the court well. She's a scrappy defender. Like she's going to be on the ground for every 50-50 ball and ripping the ball out of girls' hands and just really fun to watch. Explosive, she's just continue to develop her strength and everything just through hard work. And then you've got Ashlyn Moorhead, who's contributing at the guard position. You've got Chloe Bullinger and Lauren Kilbarger. So, they've just and Addie Zajac, of course.
Do not forget Addie Zajac. She's a game changer, man.
Yep.
That kid is one of the best rebounding posts in the state.
Yeah, so really just observing those kids separately during the travel season and then what they did last postseason and just kind of how I've seen their team compete this summer and just as a group, just overall, I think they're going to be a really dangerous team. And to me, they've kind of earned respect at the Division 2 level, and that's why I'm giving them the number 6 spot.
So I actually had to come see at number 7, right under Muskegon. For a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, They do have a lot of talent, man. They've got all the right pieces, a team full of future college players at various levels. Um, they have Allie Zajac, which is having a lot. I mean, she's a school all-time leading scorer last year as a junior, and she's healthy coming out of the summer, which is huge. Um, and then surround that with the guard play of Michaela Schlorf and Moorhead, Chloe Bullinger is very underrated as a basketball player. Got to see a lot of those girls up close and personal. I think Tecumseh is a problem. On top of the fact that they have great coaching. There's a lot of effort and energy that goes into making sure that you have all of these highly skilled players competing. And that game with FGR came down to the wire, man. A couple free throws here or there, a couple layups here or there, and that game could have been very different. So I respect Tecumseh coming into this year, and I expect them to make a lot of noise. I'm curious to see where they end up at the end of my season, but coming in this year, I think they need to be a little hungrier. So I have them at 7. Strong roster, strong coaching.
Great points, coach. So number 7 for me is going to be the Goodrich Martians, another mascot I love. But I saw them play a lot last winter. Very, very well coached team, very disciplined. They're a team similar, like the next 3 teams that I have, including Tecumseh, they're very sound on both ends of the floor. They play really well together. They have a lot of history together and just a lot of cohesiveness. And the big thing about these teams is they move the ball well and they share the shots and they get the right plays and make good decisions. So the Goodrich Martians, they were a team that was undefeated for the longest time last year and had a phenomenal season, and then they ran into Depsa, who ended up being the champions last of Division Two. But Goodrich is just a team that they shoot lights out. They're very disciplined defensively. They put a lot of pressure on opposing ball handlers. They're very effective. The thing that makes them tough to defend is they're very solid attacking, using their dribble drive and also just shoot. Like they have so many shooters on the court at once. So you got Kayla Harrison, the point guard position that's explosive, has D2 offers and she gets downhill, is a very scrappy defender. You've got Tanner Schramm, who's another really solid, one of the best wings in the class, in my opinion. She can shoot the 3 ball. She's just a super athletic, can make all sort of platform baskets in contested situations, crashes the boards, super aggressive for 50-50 balls. You got Baylor Loinger from plays for the Michigan Storm, another really solid guard in that class. Ella Place, great shooter, point guard, kind of combo guard kid. Lucy Rafferty's a senior who's just a great defender and just kind of an all-around player that really like kind of completes their starting lineup. And then Ella Agason committed to Olivet, and she's a solid shooter outside as well. So just a really good overall team with a lot of depth and a lot of shooting, and threes are worth more than 2. So
Give you that.
these teams that can just light it up from outside, and they have the discipline defensively, and they have a player like Tanner Schramm that can guard in the post against some of the bigger, more natural centers. I'm gonna pick teams like that for sure. Above maybe some others.
So you know what? I didn't move any teams from the top 7, but I did move Goodrich just now to
Hmm.
number 8. Um,
Okay.
Partly because I was looking at their record, and I'm a little 50-50 on this right now. The last 2 years, how many games do you think Goodrich has won combined?
I am going to guess, and I'm not looking like, sorry, you
Yeah,
can't tell that I don't have this on
you're,
my
you're,
screen, guys,
you're
viewers,
good.
but I'm gonna guess, let's say 49.
They've won 50 games in the last 2 years.
Dang, I'm pretty
So
good, actually.
Goodrich is 50-5. Now, granted, they've lost some really key seniors, which is one of the reasons why I have them down. But I was a little leery, so I had them lower than this. But I'm gonna move them back to 8 because I'm gonna just trust that their coach and their staff and their players Just the consistency that they've had, that they're going to find a way to win 22, 23 games no matter what. For perspective, if they win another 24 games this year, they will have won 74 games in 3 years without a title. I'm going to put Goodrich at number 8 for me.
Good choice, coach. All right. So this next one, people might call me a homer because, I used to be the freshman coach here and whatever, but so the number 8 is on my list is the Howell Highlanders.
I was
And
curious to see when they were going to creep on your list. Uh,
yeah,
this this,
and it
this
was
is going to be interesting.
I know, and so I'm gonna look really smart here, or I'm not gonna look
Mhm.
smart. But they're a team that, when they are playing their best basketball, I mean, they can compete with any athletic team um in the state. I've seen it, and they're a team that doesn't shy away from athletic, fast guards, physical guards. They're a team that defends, communicates a lot on defense, plays really well together, doesn't shy away. They're a tough team. They have Gaddy Pifo, who's one of the more efficient shooters in the state. Just received a couple offers from Cedarville and somebody else that is escaping me. And then Allison Farr, she's another kid that has, multiple offers at the next level. Siena Heights, right? For Gabby as well.
Spring Arbor
Or Spring
be
Arbor.
awful.
I'm sorry. Yep. And then
Mhm.
Allison Farr, she's a kid that just super effective, combo guard both sides of the floor, great passer, drives, finishes strong in the paint, good defender, tough, good communicator. Kylie Pung, she's a kid that not a lot of people know about, but she's another kid that can light it up from the 3-point range. She's super long and quick. They're just really deep as far as the guard position, and they're very disciplined. They're a team that's used to winning and used to competing against anybody. So they're a dangerous team, and they're somebody that, they could definitely be making a run this postseason.
I can respect that. That Howell being the top 10, they're a team to watch out for. If I remember right, I think that Wade had them in his Super 10 teams to watch.
Yeah.
Who just won't say, and I respect that. They're a top program to watch out for. So for me, at number 9, um, team to watch to me is Detroit Country Day. They have one of the best players in the country, not in the state. Another one of the best players in the country is CC Rico. And Jayla Jackson, a special player. They got some underclassmen coming in that'll be good. Blackwell, Crispin, Wiggins, like all those players are good. They had a good year last year, but I expect that they'll be better this year. That's just my thoughts on Country Day. I was able to watch them a little bit in the summer, which doesn't really mean much when it comes to the high school season itself. But with the growth that they've had as players in their individual teams in the summer, I think that if they can find a way to put things together the right way, there's a lot of teams in Division 1 that if you sleep on them, you can find yourself going home. Um, really quickly, especially when you have a couple of Power 5 players now, right? I think Jayla Jackson's got some Big Ten offers. And CeCe Rico now has got an offer from South Carolina, which is one of the best teams in the country every year. To get an offer from Dawn Staley is not something to sleep on. So you have to watch those teams. So for me, I had DCD at number 9.
All right. Well, we just made history, folks, because Coach T and I have the same team at number 9.
First time
So
ever.
yeah, so I've got the Country Day Yellow Jackets as my
Mhm.
number 9 team as well. And I'm not going to go into as much length because Coach T summed it up very well there. But like you said, Cece Erico, she's just a freak athlete, tough. I love that she wears a mouth guard. Super random fact, but she is a freaking running back, like coming through the lane, and you better be tough and physical, or she is going to just outmuscle you to the basket. And she just jumps out the gym. Jayla Jackson, same thing, just super, super tough, driving to the basket and defensively as well. Both those two. Samaya Blackwell, she's a kid that I really like. Plays for the crossover program, but She's somebody who's going to get more run as well this season as a breakout candidate, super athletic and dynamic with the ball, and then also just a really scrappy defender. They've got Nia Crispin at the guard position, and then Ariana Wiggins. So definitely a solid group there. A team that I also believe is going to step up and have a great season. And they were a team I went back and forth with as well in my mind of, where to put them. But I'm in good company here. So, all right.
I struggle with them, man, as far as how high or how low I want to go because they actually have all the pieces that you want to have as a high school team each year. To me, I think some teams are like super stacked, but then some teams you're like, okay, if I want to win a state title, I need someone who can get to the basket. I need a rebounder. I need a shooter, or shooting. Not necessarily shooter, but you want all these pieces, and then we guard. Can we guard consistently on both ends of the floor? They have everything that you would think a team needs. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out because those teams that we have ranked ahead of them in their class also have the pieces that you would think you need to win just one title. Um,
Yeah.
so, to me, I struggled a little bit, but I felt comfortable just having them in the top 10 and then seeing what they do as the year goes on. When I get to number 10 here, probably a little bit of a shocker, maybe not. I went back and forth on a number of teams, but just looking at this roster of this team, who they have coming in, and who I know is a problem, I went with Frankenmuth to round out my top 10. I think that one of the most slept on players in the 2028 class is Macy from the Mystics. I also think that Frankenmuth has shooters. I think they have a decent amount of size. They did lose some, not lose, but some kids who we thought were going to end up there, end up going a different direction. We'll talk
Mhm.
about that in another podcast. But I do think that Mute does have everything that it needs to be competitive, um, title wise, Division Two. They had a long run last year. I don't remember where they ended up, but I expect that they will do some really nice things this year because they did not lose a conference game last year. They were undefeated. I think that momentum that they need, they'll bring back this year. And then they'll bring in some freshmen who are going to contribute at a high level this year.
Mhm.
So that's my top 10.
All right, coach. So before I share my 10th team, I will say I do. So in my Division Two top 10, I have Frankenmuth as a ranking spoilers team, and that is just because I do see the McLaughlin twins who are actually going to Midland now, but I see
Mhm.
them being a very important piece to that puzzle. And
Mhm.
then, however, they themselves have been to the finals. Like, they know what winning is. Their head coach knows what winning is, and they still have Claire Conselman, who is a lights out shooter, has a ton of winning experience. They have Macy Donovan, who, spoiler alert, she is in our top five. So we'll throw that out there. So we didn't sleep on her. And then they do have Grace Brenner, who's a
Okay.
solid point guard, good
Okay.
defender, passer. So they still have, they still have a very dangerous team, and I could see them, getting into that top 10 area as well. But my last team, so my 10th team is Muskegon, the Lady Reds, and as you said earlier, so Mariah Sane and Cece Bonner, those are the top two guards in the 2026 class in our rankings. So I mean, Mariah Sane, she's just an incredible athlete. Her and Cece both incredible athletes. They do things with the ball that not many guards can do. Like, they elevate. Mariah, I've seen her float what seemed like a few seconds in midair on a drive, this summer, to hit a shot over a defender from the free throw line. And, Mariah, hits shots from outside and just attacks, gets by, takes over games. They both take over games defensively. So, they're extremely talented, and they're way out there on the west side, so I'm gonna have to get on NFHS and watch some more school games, this winter. But they're a team that could easily compete and beat anybody else on my list. And they're a team, honestly, I want to watch more of, so that I can see everyone else, that they have in their rotation as well. And like you said, they do have some dangerous forwards and players on that roster as well. So definitely a very good team.
Nice. So I do want to go our bracket busters. So who you
Yeah.
got? Give me three teams.
Yeah, so these are three teams that I could see kind of spoiling my top 10 for each division. Making a claim to being a top 10 team in the state just overall. So Saginaw Heritage is who I've got first just because, they've got the Odie sisters there. They've got Alicia, multiple, offers at the next level. They've got
Mhm.
Jocelyn Odie, who's another kid that we have in the top 10 prospects in the state, just a really explosive guard. They've got a lot of 2028s that are stacking up their team. Zariah McCreary, who you mentioned earlier, Jayla Laster is another one, London Newton. So they've just got a lot of talent and just depth that's going to be difficult. And they play in a very difficult conference, the Saginaw Valley Conference, that I was in 2 years as a coach. So they'll be battle tested. Grand Rapids West Catholic is another one with Alicia Dykstra. She's a phenomenal guard. They have Alexis Asekema, who's one of the more powerful forwards in the 2027 class, super talented. And then they've got Kenley Slanger, who's a great guard out of Michigan Drive. That's going to be coming in as a 2028 that's immediately making an impact already at team camps. So another really good team. I couldn't really come to a good decision as far as a third team because a number of teams I feel like could slot in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and echo Detroit Renaissance. I believe Wade had them as a
Mhm.
spoiler. Yeah, so
Yep.
so so I'm going to echo Coach Wade there with Renaissance. Imani Johnson's phenomenal athlete and Jabri Autry. They've got a 2028 point guard, Cassie Kane, who's a phenomenal player, and then Maddie McChester. They've got a lot of youth and a lot of Jayla Adams. They've just got a lot of youth and athleticism that gives people problems defensively and just some pure scorers. So they're a team I see making noise as well.
Nice. So you and Wade actually have two teams exactly the same with West Catholic and Renaissance. The difference is I think they had he had Howell, but you got Howell in your top 10, and so Heritage at the bottom of it. So I'm gonna agree with Renaissance. We all agree on that. I think that they're a sleeper. Actually has Howell as my other sleeper team. For all of the reasons mentioned before, I think that they're a team that um has found a way to be competitive and win games consistently. They have talent, and they have girls that like playing with each other, which goes a long way in this game. But then as a sleeper team, because I know that they're going to bump into a lot of teams on this list, a team to not sleep on is one right out of our own backyard. I have Parma Western as a team to watch. I don't know where they're going to end up this year. I know they got a second year coach at Beckman there who won a national championship as a player right here at Spring Arbor University. First time we ever won a national championship on the men's side. We're looking to get one on the women's side here shortly. Fingers crossed, knocking on wood. Um, but they got some talent, man, and if they're able to put it all together, then there's some of the teams on this list that I think that they could give fits to on the right night. So to me, they would be a huge bracket buster because they didn't have a bad season last year, but they didn't have a great season either. I expect that they're going to be a little bit better this year with the experience coming back that they do have coming in and the style of play. It sounds like that they want to play. Um, could be productive. So I think that they're a team to watch out for, particularly in Division Two, um, because they have pieces. They have the pieces to do it. They have athletes. They have some size. They got a prolific scorer and Ray Hit, and then they got some pieces coming off their bench that have been on the AAU circuit for a long time. So we'll see. Um, what happens with Parma, just as a team to watch. It's not a knock to the other schools. There's about 15 other teams we could have named, but they're a team that I'm gonna be able to watch up close and personal because they're literally right in the backyard here. So I'm curious to see, what they do when some of these Power 10 teams that we have listed here come to town.
All right, I like that, Coach. Man, that was fun, huh?
I mean, I had a great time doing it. I think it's going to cause a lot of really interesting conversations after this. But for Michigan Girls Hoops podcast, I am Terrence Willis. For all of our listeners, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Where we try to bring you as much content as we can, but you also can subscribe to Twitter, formerly known as X. And then also the link for those things will be found in the bio. We hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. For those who listened thus far, next podcast is going to be a good one. You have a good one. Take care.
Thanks, guys.